What's going on, everybody? Aidan from Birds vs. Boys here, and we are putting our finishing touches on the draft season. And just like finishing touches with a painter, I think this was Howie Roseman's Mona Lisa. I think this was the best draft that he has had as the GM of the Philadelphia Eagles, which I know is saying a lot considering some of the Hall of Famers he has taken in the past. But I truly think this was a phenomenal job. We will wait and see what the on-field product looks like. But in terms of strategy, I am really, really happy with what the team has done. The vision is clear. The strategy is clear. What they wanted to improve upon was clear. Through and through, you could see what their purpose was and what their purpose is going to be into the future. I think the easiest way to break down a draft is just go by player by player. And we could do that and go through the players that they drafted and the overall, just from Quinyon Mitchell all the way down to our 6th-round picks and cover it that way. But I think a better way probably to do it with the Eagles and try to explain what they're doing is to go by trends. A lot of the players fit the same trends, and you could see it again and again with each pick that they took, even if they're at different positions. So let's try to get into it that way. And we can start with the early guys with Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. We touched on it immediately on our live draft stream. Thank you to everybody who tuned in for that. But relative athletic score, making sure that the guys that you are drafting are testing off the charts athletically. And we touched on it with Quinyon Mitchell because he had one of the highest RAS scores of any cornerback since 1987. Well, night 2, they doubled down and got Cooper DeJean, who had an even higher score than Quinyon Mitchell on the RAS score. And they were able to trade up to pick 40 to do that. I think a lot of what they were able to accomplish in the draft is because they didn't have to trade up to get Quinyon Mitchell, and he fell to them at 22. And then they didn't have to sacrifice any of those 2nd-round picks. They were able to then use those to get Cooper DeJean and didn't have to give up any future draft capital down the road, which we will touch on later. But to get those two guys, it was very clear that they emphasized and highlighted the relative athletic score. It was something that they were keen on last year as well. So they're getting guys that test off the charts. And it's the things like your 40-yard dash, your 20-yard dash, your 10-yard dash, the 3-cone, the shuttle drills, bench, everything like that. All of the different athletic metrics compiled into one. And then Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell tested off the charts. Like we said, Quinyon Mitchell was a 9.79, and then DeJean was even higher at 9.85. This doesn't discredit what they do on the field. They're obviously phenomenal prospects. Howie Roseman even touched on it in his post-draft interview, where he said the Eagles didn't have 32 guys that they graded out as a 1st-round talent. They got 2 of those guys in their draft, and one of them in DeJean at pick 40. So all in all, phenomenal job getting a great on-field product from those 2, but you can see the heavy emphasis on their athletic scores as well. And that would continue as they're getting guys like Jalix Hunt, who a lot of people said, this is a developmental guy. This is a project. And then you listen to Andrew DiCecco talk about him. He's like, he was a rising star among the media. He was clearly not a rising star among NFL minds. He goes in the 3rd round there. And another guy, athletically, tested off the charts, huge burst at the defensive end and edge rusher possession, something that they're keen on. Obviously, bringing Hassan Reddick before, bringing in Bryce Huff now. They care about having that burst on the line. I think that's a great pick in terms of just like, I know what your strategy is. Right? Like, I understand. I'm not even going to call it a flyer because, again, I think a lot of people and a lot of teams started to get really high on Jalix Hunt. But if he's a developmental guy, this isn't necessarily a flyer because I see exactly what you were trying to do with getting insanely athletic people on the roster. And you know what's funny? If you go take a look, and we'll post it for you here, the RAS scores of everybody that they drafted were really, really high, and they were all green. We're talking 9+ out of 10. The only guy who didn't really have a high athletic score was Anais Smith, the wide receiver from Texas A&M, which is really funny to me because if you watch his highlight tape, and I've been watching a lot of him since the draft because I wasn't too familiar with him, if you took the Eagles draft class and just listed them one by one and made you watch highlight tape of all of them and asked who would be the guy with the highest athletic score, you'd probably go Anais Smith. He has serious wiggle when he catches the football. You couldn't tackle this kid in a phone booth. In tight spaces, he's able to break tackles, elude people. He was really, really fun to watch. And I'm thinking, he's the only guy on the list with a yellow score on the RAS and everybody's green. So it's really funny. That was another one. Even with that score, I'm sure they loved his athleticism as well. And I think he'll have a good opportunity to compete for wide receiver 3, we've touched on it a bunch with Quez Watkins. You can see why he was brought in. I remember on draft day, Daniel Jeremiah calling him he looks like a speedboat versus canoes, and the speed was always there, but maybe some of those intangibles weren't. The catching of the football, the vision after the catch, the ability to break tackles, everything like that. Well, Anaya Smith kind of almost seems like is that full package where once you get him the ball, that's when he takes off. It looks like he's the type of guy in baseball. If you walk him, you're like, all right, well, that might as well have been a double because I know he's going to steal. That's what he looks like when he gets the ball in his hands. He just looks like an absolute flash. And I love Johnny Wilson as well. He was a guy, he and Keon Coleman were so high on draft boards going into the 2024 season in college football, which is ironic because Florida State went undefeated and they both produced a lot and they fell down draft boards. But Johnny Wilson, we touched on him, the 6'6", 6'7", and we don't want to use the basketball analogy, and I don't even think you have to with Johnny Wilson. Yeah, he has a huge catch radius, but he also, again, tested athletically through the roof. He's a guy who ran like a 4.5. He was like within the same speed as A.J. Brown, things like that. So I get what they're doing with all of these guys. I loved both of those wide receiver picks. And even though Anaya Smith had the lowest RAS score of anyone who was drafted, I think people are going to be really, really high on him. Now, another trend that we want to touch on, aside from the insane athleticism that they were going for, is these Red Star guys. So the Red Star thing I first learned about last year because Howie Roseman and the Eagles brought it up in their post-draft interviews. And they touched on it with Sidney Brown. So these Red Star guys you're meeting all of the criteria in terms of not just a athletic guy, but also a team player. So it's the team captains. It's the guys who have great instincts. There's good production on the field, plus those athletic measurements that we just talked about. They said this year they got 5 of those Red Star guys. Now, one of those guys, I'm assuming, is Trevor Keegan, the offensive guard from Michigan. I wanted Zach Zinter so bad because he was my little stash, little passion project where I thought we could get him in the middle rounds and we would be okay because he fell a little bit and he's going to turn into what would have been like a second round talent who fell to round 3, round 4 because of that gruesome leg injury he suffered against Ohio State. Okay. Well, Zach Zinter goes off the board at 85. We're sitting there at 86, and they made another trade, and we'll get into the trades later. I think that's another trend. But they get his running mate, Trevor Keegan, one of the guards from Michigan. We touched on it, Red Star guys. So he graded out really well in terms of pass protection, run protection. It was his highest grade his final year. He made every start. He was a team captain on a national championship winning team. Red Star, Red Star, Red Star guys. That's exactly like when I think Red Star, I'm going to think about the team captain who produces for a team that's winning a national championship. That is through and through. I think he will be a phenomenal, phenomenal player. I think Tyler Steen starts as the right guard this year. I like Steen. Great day 2 pick. Trevor Keegan just seems like the guy who will take over, and I think he will be at least for the time being, a great backup in terms of the guards, which we needed last year with Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson missing time during the season. Keegan would be able to fill in. I think he will do wonders with Jeff Stellan. I am very, very happy with that pick. I can see where these Red Star guys are coming in. I'm assuming Cooper DeJean was probably one of those Red Star guys as well. Maybe even Dylan McMahon. He fit a lot of those different things. He's another guy, athletic score, 9.79 RAS, 44 starts in college. He plays 3 different positions. And that's another thing that the Eagles have highlighted. I wanted Cooper Beebe because he could play different positions. The Cowboys end up getting him. But Dylan McMahon, again, the multi-positional versatility is what the Eagles care about. Cooper DeJean, does he play corner? Does he play safety? Can he play in the slot? Guess what? He can do a few different things. That's why he's on this team. Dylan McMahon, really good center. He can fill in a guard if you need to. And hey, 6th-round center, I think he'll do a phenomenal job. I saw a tweet. I'm forgetting the name of the account, but he's very, very funny on Twitter. He said the Eagles are drafting a 6th-round center. So congrats to Dylan McMahon's brother, who will be dating Olivia Rodrigo in 10 to 12 years. I thought that was very funny. And again, just an awesome, just great pick. Great pick. Now, I touched on it before. I was really disappointed to see Zach Zinter go off the board at pick 85. The Eagles were sitting there at 86 after they had traded back from pick 78 with that trade with the Commanders to move up and get Cooper DeJean. So I was a little bit disappointed in that, but I'm not disappointed with the strategy at all. So they were trading back. And if you were a part of our live stream on TikTok, we were sitting there like, okay, should we stay on or are they going to keep trading back? Like we didn't know what to do. It's like every time we get close to a pick, we're all excited. We're all there together. They don't go after somebody and we're thinking, are we ever going to see a pick here? It was kind of funny, but you absolutely can see the strategy. You can see it playing out in real time. And it's as time has passed, it looks even better as you hear their reasoning. So In the process of trading back again and again and again, they ended up with 3 future picks next year, a third round pick, a fourth round pick, and a fifth round pick. I assume they're also going to get some compensatory picks next year as well. So they have stockpiled a good amount of picks to give you that flexibility. Flexibility on draft day is a huge thing to them. And you look at it like getting DeAndre Swift last year is a perfect example. Like they had extra stockpiled picks in the back of the draft. Like, okay, they used almost a 6th-round pick, a 7th-round pick swap to get someone as productive as DeAndre Swift. And it's because you have that capital available. Well, when you're doing this and you have your picks already, and then you're getting your extra third, extra fourth, extra fifth, that allows you to make moves like that. And that's what I was thinking when I hear that. I was like, okay, if there's a guy that they target, or if they, lose picks because of the Saquon thing, there's backup plan. There's flexibility. There's great draft capital. You're not sacrificing the long term for the short term when you move up for Cooper DeJean, because now you finished with 8 picks. You had 3 additional picks next year. And then listening to them talk about it, they said it was the least amount of people that came out because of the NIL thing early. So a lot of these kids that are juniors and eligible are staying because they can get paid there, improve their draft status, and then get drafted a year later. I'm assuming this will probably be a trend going forward more and more so, but it was the lowest amount of people who have declared in quite some time for the NFL. So the Eagles were like, well, if it's not a deep draft later in the rounds, why don't we stockpile for next year, keep our options open? And they still ended up with a full draft class, getting 8 different guys. I thought that was a phenomenal job. Again, you're not sacrificing the now for the future. You're getting your guys and Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, who are high on your board, first round grades. There's nothing given up for them. You're getting guys later in the draft that can help you at depth with 2 more offensive guard, offensive center prospects that can help out on the line, be the backups with you lost Jack Driscoll, you lost Sua Opeta, Jason Kelsey obviously retired. You had to replenish that depth. You do so on the offensive line with no sacrifices, and you're actually bolstering your depth going forward for 2025. I thought that was a great move. And just again, they're playing trends the right way, and you don't see it with other teams. I don't want to pick on the Bears because I love Caleb Williams, but they traded back up into the draft. They were out of picks, and it's just like, man, like that, you're in a tough position. Like Carolina trading up to pick 32 to get into the first round, but you don't have a first round pick because you traded for Bryce Young. It's like, how do you ever build around this quarterback if you're doing something like that? Meanwhile, the Eagles just are constantly like, this is a full draft class and then some for next year. I think it was a phenomenal job there. One more thing in terms of the draft, and then I'll get into the organization as a whole. If you look at the 30 visits, and we'll flash it on the screen for you here. Next year, remind me, everyone who's subscribed in the past week, and we thank you for your support, please remind me when I do mock drafts to just only look at the 30 visits, because everyone who took a 30 visit to the Eagles, unless they were drafted by somebody else, the Eagles were taking them. Cooper DeJean, 30 visit. Quinyon Mitchell, 30 visit. Jalix Hunt, 30 visit. Jeremiah Charter Jr., 30 visit. All of these guys that they drafted all had 30 visits with the Eagles. And the other people, again, they drafted like Edgerrin Cooper. They loved him. He was off the board before they had a chance to draft him. Zach Sinter was another guy. They had a 30 visit with him, but he was off the board. So all these different things you look at, and it's like, okay, if they take a 30 visit with the Eagles, there is a good chance that they may be taking them. Troy Fatano, a guy that I liked a lot, 30 visit, went off the board before the Eagles even had a chance. But all of these guys that they like, the Eagles were talking to them. It was a 30 visit. They were talking to them at the Senior Bowl. They talked to them multiple times. And I totally forgot about the running back from Clemson, which is just, he fits everything here. But again, he had a private workout. He had a 30 visit. He had a private workout with the running back coach. They liked him a lot. And I think that'll be really, really good for them. And it's Will Shipley. I should have mentioned him in the RAS score. I think he'll actually contribute right away, because I'm not going to use change of pace when it comes to Saquon Barkley. He is the change pace. He is every pace. He's just a lightning bottle. So I think Will Shipley will be your running back 2 and be able to do different things out of the backfield, catch the ball. He can run. We've seen him hurdle guys. I think it was a phenomenal draft pick. Some people weren't as high on him. I thought it was a really good pick considering what he will be. And it's really a backup running back who will get a lot of play and a lot of snap count. He fits that RAS. But again, 30 visit. The running back coach met with him and did a private drill. Like, they are doing their homework, and they're not exactly hiding that they're doing their homework with these guys. So next year, please remind me to keep track of all of the 30 visits, because there's a good chance if you see the name on the 30 visit, you're going to hear it called by the Eagles come draft night. And it's just like, good, do your homework. And one last thing, because how well a organization is run in Philadelphia has become a hot topic, considering some of the other teams in the city right now. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. getting drafted in the 5th round, I thought was such a cool moment to see Howie Roseman on the verge of tears, Jeffrey Lurie on the verge of tears, talking to Jeremiah Trotter Jr. about how he met him when he was 3 years old, when Jeremiah Trotter, his dad, was on the team. And I'm thinking to myself, this is such a cool thing. This a serious level of passion with this team. And I know Trotter Jr. himself fell down draft boards, but you look at it, the Eagles get him in the 5th round. Cool. Like, that's a great spot to get him in, and just a great move from a well-run organization who just seems to get it. We just went over all the on-football related things that they get and why this is a successful draft class. This is another one. It's not necessarily on the field, but they just get it. They just get it, and it's exactly why people buy in, and you never have to question the passion, intensity, or just overall wherewithal to run this organization with these guys. I think they're in a great spot. And again, I think this was the absolute masterpiece of a draft from Howie Roseman. That was the finishing touch to me. I think they are in a phenomenal spot and so much better from where they ended the season in terms of improving the team for now and for the future. I am over the moon. A plus, everything. I don't care about draft grades. We'll see in 4 years. I love the strategy. I love what they did. So that's it on the Eagles draft. Again, home run. Thank you, Howie Roseman. I was your biggest critic in 2020 in terms of what was the plan? Not just the guys when it comes to Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. That's easy to bully and point out. What is your plan? I now understand the pedigree of the guys you're looking for. I understand the emphasis on athleticism that you're looking for. I understand the just emphasis on draft capital as a whole, so you can continue to make moves down the line. I am over the moon with everything that they have done. It was a phenomenal draft, and it was a phenomenal time with you all. Thank you all to tune into the mock drafts, everybody who followed our live stream, everyone who followed our live stream on TikTok the night after. We are super grateful for the support. We'll be talking about this draft class hopefully for 6-8 years to come. So thank you to everybody. We'll be back soon. Another successful Eagles draft season.